Loneliness can be suffocating. For Emily, the nights were the hardest, cold, silent, and endless. But one night, in a moment of quiet desperation, she made a choice that seemed so small, yet changed everything. She invited her dog into her bed. What happened next wasn't just comfort. It was healing in its purest form. This is a story of how an unexpected companion became her lifeline. At her darkest, when loneliness threatened to swallow her whole, Emily did something no one expected. She invited her loyal dog into her bed, not for romance, but for survival. What if the key to healing was hiding in the warmth of four paws? Stay with me as we uncover how one bold, unconventional choice transformed despair into hope. A few years ago, Emily was struggling deeply. She had just endured a painful breakup and was still mourning the loss of someone very dear to her. The nights were especially hard for her. Every moment of silence amplified the emptiness inside. She often described those nights as unbearable, lying awake in a small, dim apartment, staring at the ceiling while the loneliness seeped into every corner of her heart. The quiet was relentless, and the void she felt was like a physical weight pressing her down. Emily told me that the sound of the clock ticking was a constant reminder of how time seemed to stretch endlessly when she was alone. The walls of her room, which once offered solace, now echoed with memories of loss and regret. She found herself haunted by the past, unable to escape the memories that played on an endless loop in her mind. Sleep had become elusive, and the darkness of night only deepened her sorrow. One rainy evening, driven by a desperate need to escape the constant ache of isolation, Emily decided to visit a local animal shelter. She wasn't expecting to find a solution or a miracle. She just needed a distraction from pain. That rainy day, with a relentless drizzle outside and the sky a muted gray, Emily walked into the shelter almost on a whim. Amid the barking of a few dogs and the soft hum of conversation from the staff, she felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in a long time. A hint of warmth, a glimmer of hope. It was there, in the midst of rows of kennels and hopeful eyes, that Emily met Buddy. Buddy was a gentle golden retriever with a calm and soulful demeanor. His eyes, warm and understanding, seemed to speak a language that transcended words. In that brief moment when their gazes met, Emily felt an instant connection. Buddy's gentle, unassuming nature resonated with her own vulnerability. It was as if, in his quiet, unspoken way, he was offering her the comfort she so desperately needed. Without fully understanding why, Emily decided to adopt Buddy that very day. She filled out the necessary paperwork with trembling hands, not entirely sure what to expect from this new chapter in her life. The idea of having a dog in her life was not entirely new to her, but the manner in which Buddy's presence began to fill a part of her soul was something she could never have predicted. Bringing him home felt like welcoming a long-lost friend back into her life, a friend who would walk with her through the shadows and help guide her toward the light. The first few days were tentative. Emily was still learning to trust the newfound comfort Buddy offered. In the beginning, Buddy would follow her quietly around the apartment, his eyes constantly watching her, as if trying to understand her unspoken pain. Slowly, Emily began to talk to him, sharing her worries, her memories, even her small moments of hope. It wasn't long before she realized that Buddy wasn't just a pet. He was a companion who listened without judgment. His quiet presence was a balm to her troubled soul. One night, as the cold and loneliness of the night settled in, Emily made a decision that would mark the turning point in her healing journey. Feeling the piercing chill of solitude in her bed, she decided to let Buddy sleep with her. For Emily, this wasn't a matter of physical comfort alone. It was an act of profound vulnerability and self-care. It was a decision to allow someone else into the most intimate space of her life, the space that had been reserved for her sorrow and isolation. That first night, as Emily lay in her bed with Buddy curled up by her side, she felt a gentle warmth spread through her. The steady rhythm of his breathing, the softness of his fur, and the comforting weight of his presence all combined to create a sanctuary of safety and peace. In that shared space, the oppressive loneliness that had plagued her for so long began to melt away, replaced by a gentle reassurance that she was not alone. Buddy's quiet companionship whispered, "You're safe. I'm here with you." In the weeks that followed, Emily's nightly ritual of sleeping with Buddy became a sacred routine, a quiet testament to her resilience and her willingness to embrace healing. Each night, As she settled into bed, the simple act of welcoming Buddy into her personal space transformed the experience of sleep from one of anxiety and emptiness to one of comfort and hope. The familiar sound of his breathing became a lullaby that soothed her restless mind, easing her into a peaceful sleep that had long eluded her. Emily once told me, "Lying there with Buddy, I felt like the world was a little less harsh. It was as if his presence was a shield against the darkness, a gentle reminder that I was cared for." These words, spoken softly in moments of quiet reflection, encapsulated the profound impact that Buddy had on her life. He was not a cure for all her pain, but he was a constant, unwavering source of comfort, a small light in the overwhelming darkness. As time went on, Emily began to see changes in herself that she never thought possible. The nights, once marked by endless despair, were gradually replaced with moments of genuine peace. Her mornings became brighter, and she started to reconnect with parts of herself that had been buried under the weight of her grief. The simple comfort of having Buddy by her side allowed her to face each new day with a bit more courage and a little more hope. What was most remarkable about Emily's journey was not just the physical act of sharing her bed with a dog, but the deeper transformation that came from embracing her vulnerability. In allowing Buddy to be so close, she acknowledged that it was okay to need help, that it was okay to let someone else share in her burden. In a society that often equates independence with strength, Emily's openness was a quiet act of rebellion. It was a reminder that true strength lies in the courage to be vulnerable, to let others in, and to accept the comfort that comes from genuine, unconditional companionship. Buddy, with his unassuming presence and steady loyalty, became much more than just a pet to Emily. He became a trusted friend, a silent guardian who helped her navigate the turbulent waters of her emotions. His companionship was a constant reminder that healing is not always about grand gestures or dramatic changes, but often about the small, everyday acts of love and care. Every night, as Emily closed her eyes with Buddy beside her, she felt a little more whole. The pain of her past, though never entirely erased, was softened by the warmth of his presence. I recall a conversation we had one evening when Emily looked at me with quiet determination in her eyes. She said, "I used to think that admitting I needed comfort was a sign of weakness, but now I see it was the bravest thing I ever did. By allowing Buddy into my life, I allowed myself to heal. It wasn't about dependency. It was about accepting that I deserved to be loved, even in a way that might seem unconventional." Those words resonated deeply with me and continue to remind me that healing is a process, a series of small, courageous choices made day by day. Emily's journey was not without its challenges. There were nights when the memories of her past would flood back, and the darkness would feel almost overwhelming. But even in those moments, Buddy was there. His soft eyes and gentle nudge were constant reassurances that no matter how heavy the night might be, there was always a little light to be found. And over time, as the weeks turned into months, Emily began to trust that light again. Her story teaches us that comfort can come in the most unexpected forms. It shows that sometimes the simple act of allowing another living being into your life can be the first step toward reclaiming your strength and finding your way back to hope. Emily's experience with Buddy is a testament to the idea that healing is not a solitary journey. It is a process that is enriched by the connections we form, whether with friends, family, or even a faithful dog who silently stands by our side. Today, when I look back at Emily's journey, I am struck by the profound transformation that took place in her life. The same bed that was once a place of loneliness had become a sanctuary, a space where she could confront her fears, nurture her vulnerabilities, and ultimately rediscover her inner strength. Buddy's presence had rewritten the narrative of her nights from one of despair to one of gentle, enduring hope. Emily's story is not just about finding comfort in a time of need. It is about embracing life in all its imperfections. It is about understanding that sometimes the things that seem unconventional or even strange to others are the very things that can set us free. In a world that often demands stoicism and self-reliance, Emily's willingness to accept help, no matter how unexpected its form, was a powerful reminder that it is okay to lean on others when the weight of the world becomes too much to bear. For those of us who have known Emily, her transformation is nothing short of inspiring. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, there's a possibility of light, of renewal, and of finding love in places we never thought to look. Her journey teaches us that healing is not about erasing the past, but about building a future where the scars become symbols of survival, strength, and the courage to be vulnerable. As I share her story with you today, I hope it serves as a beacon for anyone who may be struggling with loneliness or despair. If you find yourself in the depths of isolation, know that you are not alone. Sometimes, the most unlikely companions can provide the warmth and solace that your heart so desperately craves. Whether it's a friend, a loved one, or even a gentle dog like Buddy, allowing yourself to receive that comfort is a brave act of self-care. Emily's story is a testament to the power of unconditional love, a reminder that healing often begins with a simple decision to open our hearts, even when it feels risky. Her willingness to share her most vulnerable moments with Buddy, to let it be a part of her nightly ritual, ultimately transformed her life. It showed her that even in the stillness of night, there is a possibility of connection, and in that connection, a pathway to a brighter tomorrow. So, if you ever feel overwhelmed by the silence of the night or the weight of your own loneliness, remember Emily's journey. Remember that sometimes the smallest act of kindness and the most unexpected forms of companionship can light the way toward healing. And above all, remember that it is okay to seek comfort, to be vulnerable, and to let love into your life in whatever form it may take. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope that by sharing Emily's experience, you too might find a little inspiration to reach out for the warmth and support you deserve. In the end, we are all in this together, and sometimes the most profound healing comes from the simplest acts of caring for one another, even if that care comes from a loyal dog who reminds us that we are never truly alone. May you always find light in the darkest of nights, and may you be brave enough to embrace the unconventional comforts that life